Mr. Solheim, you have mentioned that currently we live in the most prosperous and peace world ever. And could you please tell me what are the main factors of this success? What has made us so successful and so rich and happy?
The average human being is much more prosperous and living much more in peace than at any point in human history. We have better states, we have market-based economy. Most governments understand that education is key to development, and in most places there is peace. Without peace you cannot develop. So if we can get more of all this, we can bring everyone on board, and people must understand that though it's better on average for the mother who saw her children dying from a disease which is completely curable or from war, give no consolation to say that on average we are doing very well.
Thank you. You have also mentioned that these days it's very important, that's the new approach for development cooperation, to mix aid finance and private investment. That seems to be the right way forward. That is what we discuss in the on the international fora at the moment. How to make sure that this much will work? That how to ensure that this marriage of public and private money will not neglect public goods, will not neglect education, will not neglect healthcare?
There are some items for development which normally is most easy to finance through public resources. Education, health in most nations are basically public sector activities because you get the better resources from there. But there is a huge number of other areas which is better to finance from private. I mean, if you want to provide energy, if you do road building, if you want a new rail line, private companies will normally always be better to do that. And then you can mix public and private finance. For instance, public finance can take some of the added risk. Maybe more risky to invest in hydroelectric power in Congo than in Sweden. It may be more risky with a solar institution in Mali than in China. That extra risk can be taken by the public money, by the aid money, while the investment per se is private and commercial.
You have also mentioned the role of states, the role of strong state in development process. And during your lecture, you have mentioned also a couple of examples where the state doesn't really work. And you gave the examples of a few African countries where we have a tribalism in the national politics. So my question is the approach of the United Nations, the approach of the European Union and basically the Western world really correct in these efforts to keep these developing countries as one structures? There is no really nation. There are two tribes, for example, but we strongly encourage these tribes to live together and to share the country and to share the land. Does it really make sense, or maybe our efforts are counterproductive?
I think the Western world should be a little bit more self-critical here. We tend to demand immediate election in every place rather than demanding an inclusive process. In Sri Lanka, which I know very well, for sure the state has been very democratic basically throughout the times, but it has been for sure not inclusive. Tamils and Muslims have not felt included in a state, however it was democratic. Singapore has not been fully democratic, but a lot more inclusive. And I think most people would agree that over time Singapore has been the biggest success story of the two, at least when it comes to development. So it shows that we cannot immediately jump to election, but we must also look into how we can provide an inclusive political setup where all groups, all tribes, all religions, all regions of a nation feel included.